How about now? How about now? Wow, that was a lot of time spent on nobody hearing me. This is what you get when you're trying to run IT and run your stream at the same time. So let's see how we're doing now. This will be a fun one for folks to watch on replay. Nonetheless, okay, let's see then if I can get back over to our 24/7 system and get that going now as well. We'll see if we can make that. Yeah, now it looks like I'm too loud on that system, but let's see. Here we go. We'll try and take this. All right. And we'll transition over to that and see how we're doing. Okay. So now I think we're live on everywhere we need to be at the same time. All right. So again, if you are just watching or if you've been watching and now you're just hearing me, hello. So the setup is this. We've got thunderstorms now that are coming across Cape Cod. We do have indications of wind damage and the potential of tornado development inside. This is the area that I'm watching, and this is at Falmouth, running off to the south and west, just coming over the Elizabeth Islands. Notice there is the center of the storm. We have very limited cloud-to-ground lightning, but we do have cloud-to-ground and cloud-to-water lightning that's ongoing right now. The concern that I have is right at the center of it. We have very well-defined shear at this point that continues to make its way at the center of the storm off toward Noshon Station. So I was saying that if you are on the Elizabeth Islands, I would certainly be tucked away at the lowest level of the home and away from windows. I know there's not many people who live on the Elizabeth Islands, but if you're going to be getting weather, chances are good you're getting it from a digital weather source like us. And the concern that I have here is that when we line up the velocity, you can see that we have a very clear what we call shear axis that's happening here. This clear shear axis is where we have a shift in wind. You've got wind moving in one direction out ahead of it and in the other direction back behind it. But my concern comes right at the center. You can actually see out of the latest scan that's just come in that you really have a rapid uptick in wind that's occurring here. And this is right over the Elizabeth Islands. It's going to be heading between Falmouth and Oak Bluffs. I don't know whether it will stay over the water or whether it will end up over Oak Bluffs itself. But I do know that I want the entire area from Falmouth down to West Tisbury to be in the mindset for the potential of a damaging wind event that's about to move in. I'll swing back over to the more typical velocity scan. It is raining now and pouring when you get to Edgartown. We just picked up 1.5 inches of rain in a short period of time over Block Island. That heavy rain now is over the Cape. Most of the Cape, I'm not worried about the damaging potential. It's going to be from Route 28 running from Mashpee down to the south. I'll continue to watch it at the south coast of the Cape and over Hyannis to make sure that we don't see the signs continue for you. But right now, it's where that purple shows up that we're most concerned about the fact. Oh, let's see. We've just got new reports coming in from the Skywarn Spotter Network now. We've got West Island, Massachusetts with 2.75 inches of rain, and at Mattapoisett, Massachusetts, at Angelica Point, there's 2.16. Moderate flooding has been reported on a street in Sandwich. We also have in Marion, Mass, at Route 6 at Luce Avenue, flooded to the point that Mass DOT has been requested as well. We're going to tell them that we're on live. Keep it coming when you can. All right, when you can. Great, super. We appreciate the Skywarn Spotter Network. Always really important for us to be able to bring you in real time what's going on. Meanwhile, again, we're going to watch this line of what certainly appears to be the potential for damaging wind. The question is whether or not we'll get any tight rotation in there. We did have that for at least one scan that we were watching very carefully, and then it at least separated a little bit from there. But I am still really concerned about this area of very tight wind difference that's coming in over Noshon Station. I'm going to go ahead and switch you to the storm relative velocity. What this does is it adjusts for the storm speed. So you say, well, how fast are the winds? Actually, 53 mile per hour radar estimated gusts at the center of this thing, 48 miles an hour when you get farther on the south side of the storm. And if I keep coming down to the south, I can show you that there's another area of about 50 plus. And that's what's coming into the west end now of Martha's Vineyard. So if you are on Martha's Vineyard, anywhere from, let's say, about North Tisbury, running to the north, or even if we were to go all the way down to Chilmark, we'll say, and go into the north, I would go ahead and be sheltered indoors as the storm approaches. Oh, look at this. This is an area that I feel fairly confident. Let me look at the radar, the typical radar scan. Yeah. So when I look at this area, yep. So this is very likely a water spout that is developed just west of Aquina. This is going to be, let me go see if I can circle it for you to point it out. That is very likely a water spout that's over the water right now. So we're going to watch every scan of this very carefully for the west end of Martha's Vineyard. If you have friends and family, let them know they can download the app and watch. Right at the top of the app is the link to the 24/7 stream. I now have the sound working on that as well. If you're watching on social media, certainly you can share the link. But that is the area right there that I'm most concerned about as to whether there may be a waterspout area that we need to watch very carefully on live stream. I'm going to let the Skywarn spotters know what we're kind of watching here as well, so that they will be able to kind of track that on their end and see whether or not we end up hearing any reports as this thing comes ashore toward Aquina. The other area that I'm very concerned about now is, again, over the Elizabeth Islands. We talked about Noshan Heights. It's now moved just off to the north and east of that. This is another area that really stands out to me. We've got a very tight couplet that's going on here. If we go back over to the more kind of typical radar, and you can see what's happening on more common radar that you're used to seeing, you say, well, that doesn't look like it's tucked underneath the center of the storm. It's not, but the concern I have is whether we've got a little spin up trying to happen on the front side of it. So at the very least, at this point, we want to be tucked indoors and away from windows on the west side of Martha's Vineyard, all the way back up to Falmouth as this damaging line of storms approaches. And again, I can't tell you that we have a history of wind damage with this, and the reason I can't tell you that is because it's been over the ocean. So you wouldn't expect that you'd be seeing that ongoing just yet, but nonetheless, that does appear to be what we're headed for right here. Seeing some of you on chat now, I want to make sure that I touch base with you so you can hear me. That's good. You've got audio. I'm glad. Good. You can see everything. Good. All right. Good. Okay. So will anything touch? Yeah. So Oak Bluffs. Yes. You know what, Becky? I'm watching this very carefully for Oak Bluffs. I do believe there's the potential for some damaging wind to come into Oak Bluffs, and that's why I wanted to come up right away, is because I do think we've got a situation here where we may find damaging wind, at least scattered all over kind of that line that we've been watching. I can switch over to the debris signature, and you're not going to see a lot there. You do see one area, which, by the way, is coincident with that same zone that we've been watching now. The thing is, the reason I'm saying you're not going to see that much, look, it's not what would be a classic debris signature, but at the same time, you've got mostly water around it. You don't have a lot you'd be picking up off the Elizabeth Islands. So I don't think it's conclusive one way or the other. It is something that's very interesting and makes me take notice. Notice it's decreasing now as it moves off to the east. But again, the whole point of a debris signature on radar is going to be if you see something non-meteorological thrust into the air, and let's be frank, when you have water tossed into the air, that's meteorological, right? Nonetheless, as we get the latest scan, and we're getting them about every 60 seconds, I'm going to keep you posted on what I'm seeing unfolding here. But Falmouth, we should be tucked inside, away from windows now, as we prepare for a damaging storm to make its way ashore. I do believe we will find wind damage done. This will likely be the case all the way up 28 through South Pocasset. You've got a chance. I think there's a better chance from Old Silver Beach, running down to the south through Sippawisset and down to Woods Hole. Woods Hole, your impact time now is probably about 2 minutes out. So I want you to be sheltered indoors, away from windows, as this storm comes in as well. Let's go ahead and go back over to the storm relative velocity. Again, one area that we're watching very carefully now, and this is going to be this area that's immediately south of Woods Hole. I'll see if I can circle it for you. This is just offshore. I'm keeping a close eye on that. This is the area that did show what at least may have been water pushed up into the sky with this thing as it was coming through. So we have to watch very carefully on the exact kind of track on that and whether or not it holds together. I think, to me, the more damning signature here is what we're seeing with 50 mile per hour or greater radar estimated gusts that are coming out on the south side of that. So while if it all stays over water, that would be lovely, there is the potential that we still may see some damaging wind coming ashore at Woods Hole. And again, the west side of Martha's Vineyard, another area that we're watching carefully, because there are multiple areas out here that are all showing indications of rotation that are trying to get together. One of them is an area that I was watching for a potential waterspout a short time ago. That has begun to separate just a little bit, which is good, meaning the rotation not as tight, not as strong as it was a short time ago. But you can see those multiple areas where you start to see the red against green, and the fact that, yes, we are looking at multiple areas that may have spin inside of them. At this point, I think the better thing to do, because when you look at regular radar, you can see they're riding out ahead of the main line of thunderstorms. So what that tells you is it's possible, if they're not coincident, excuse me, battling a cold lately, but if they're not coincident with the updraft itself, or the strongest part of the storm, that doesn't always mean that they're going to end up making it down to the ground. But this is going to be something we'll continue to watch. Just checking on your chats now to see what else I have from you as you've been continuing to keep me posted on what you've got going on. I appreciate everybody who's chiming in on the chat. We are on multiple types of chat right now, so if you're watching us on social media, I'm compiling those. YouTube and Twitch, I'm compiling those in one place as well. And then we also have our chat feature that's built into onedegreeoutside.live, where our 24/7 stream comes in. How about Boston, says Connor. Connor, be advised that Boston's got some good rain coming in, but we don't think you have anything severe coming in. So here is the broader view. It's been raining all across the Boston metro out through Worcester. It's been raining up into southern New Hampshire. Actually, we had just posted a short time ago our evening essentials video because it's snowing when you get across the north. Matter of fact, one thing I could do very briefly, and then I'm going to get back to tracking what's coming onto the Cape, is I can shift up into the gray Maine radar, and you can see that mix that continues in pink across northern New Hampshire, Maine. We had a snowy scene this morning, and we had folks sending in their snowy pictures from northern New England, and we appreciate everybody who did that, too, using the Send to Us tab. Right now, this is kind of a hyper-local broadcast because I've really been zooming in. I shouldn't call it a broadcast. The whole idea is that this is supposed to be an interactive experience, right? That's why we've done what we do. But really, we're very focused on the Cape right now and that line of downpours. Very little actual cloud to ground and cloud to water lightning that's been going on. You can see these areas that are standing out. But again, my concern becomes when you get right on the front edge of this thing and the fact that some strong wind may be blasting in with this as well. So at the same time that I keep the radar up on the screen for you, I'm also going to go ahead and pull up some of the surface observations and see what we get for observations as this thing comes ashore. Falmouth, the actual observing site, is fairly far inland, so I don't expect that we're going to find too much out of that. Right now, that's an east wind gusting to 15 knots, so you're on the north side of this line, and that easterly wind is feeding in. Again, I'm more concerned about right in Falmouth and East Falmouth itself in the line of this thing as it comes on board. So rather than watching that airport observation, I think it's going to come down to watching spots that are at some of these private weather stations. And for that, we really do turn to the Skywarn Spotter Network that does such a phenomenal job, and appreciate them keeping us posted on what's going on with all of that. Meanwhile, Marion, Massachusetts has just checked in with 2.01 inches. And Dartmouth, Mass. at Concordia Dock now at 2.11 inches of rain in a very short period of time. Let me go ahead and check in with just a couple of our other observations. I'm also monitoring social media to see what's coming in to make sure that we don't have any reports that I want to pass along to you there. And, interesting. There are still multiple folks that are reporting that I don't have sound. I think this is because they're probably discovering the stream and watching it from the beginning on social media. That would be my guess. So hopefully they will skip forward to the current time and be able to see that we do have sound that's still on. Just severe weather in Maine, asked Connor. No severe weather coming to Maine. There should be some good rain that comes in for tonight, tomorrow, but I don't expect severe weather for you. Judy, heavy rain in Buzzards Bay with thunder and lightning. Thank you very much, Judy. Appreciate the heads up on that. And so we continue to watch this line and keep me posted. Those of you who are in that area, I'll be curious to hear about what you see, particularly in that Falmouth stretch. When you get areas like this, I mean, we saw this last week. Remember in Pocasset, we had a bunch of trees that were down at the golf course. And so the issue with that was that it was kind of scattered to isolated, but at the same time, where the damage was done, it was fairly significant. So I think my concern with this is very similar to that, right? I mean, if I go over to the velocity plot, at first when you look, you say, excuse me, that doesn't look that bad. And it doesn't. If I analyze the center of that, that's only 28 miles per hour. So what's the fuss? Well, the fuss is this. If we correct for storm motion, we start to see things change just a little bit. On the north side, coming into Falmouth, it's a 31 mile an hour gust. But farther down to the south, we have radar estimated winds to 44 and 45 miles per hour. And if we continue to go even farther south than that, then we'll be able to see that, yeah, there's a pretty good area of wind sitting just west of Martha's Vineyard right now. Let's see if I can probe the center of that. And that's about a 50 mile per hour gust. We've got that just about to come on to Aquina now. Those of you that are watching us from the west end of Martha's Vineyard, we've been covering this with you, although silently in the beginning, since I first saw the scan of a waterspout potential sitting just off the coastline. That lobe now is ready to come just north of Lighthouse Road. Looks like the worst of it for you around Aquina is going to stay just over the water. Certainly from Menemsha running up through North Road, though, we'll want to be on guard as this makes its way closer to the shoreline. Same thing with the center of this kind of downpour that also, with it, not only is bringing 2 inches of rain in a short period of time, but a little bit of cloud to ground and cloud to water lightning. That's going to try to drive in toward Lambert's Cove and West Chop. You're in the sights of this thing as well. In terms of the overall motion on it, we had estimated this motion to be somewhere near 40 miles an hour a short time ago. Let me see if I can get an updated kind of motion for us and see where we stand now. Some of the cells themselves are racing at as much as 60 miles an hour along the line, but the line itself, I would estimate, is probably still somewhere around 40 miles per hour. Let's see if I can draw that for you and get a little better feel for what we'd be looking at in terms of towns and times. Generally, it's an east-northeast motion. And so we'd be talking about, let me get that out of the way, Falmouth about 6:38, so about 2 minutes from now, it's in on top of you. Mashpee about 6:48, West Tisbury 6:49, Oak Bluffs at about 6:54, Hyannis at 7:07, Yarmouth at 7:11, South Yarmouth 7:16, Dennis at 7:16, and Harwich at 7:26. Again, while I do this, I kind of run IT at the same time that I'm a meteorologist here. So just checking to make sure, yep, everything still looks good on our 24/7 stream. If you've never tried this 24/7 stream, head on over to onedegreeoutside.live or in your computer. If you want to watch this coverage on your smart TV, open it up in the YouTube app, do a search for 1 Degree Outside Network. Again, YouTube app on your smart TV, 1 Degree Outside Network. Let's swing back over now to the storm relative velocity. This corrects for storm motion. Yeah, so here's the issue that I'm watching, all right? I'm going to go ahead and clear this out of here. Let me zoom in a little bit more. There are so many small areas where you're getting at least weak but notable rotation. One of them being over Falmouth right now, the other one out over the water. The other one is farther to the south, also over the water, to the northwest of the vineyard. And then a stronger one still, if we go farther south, that you pick up when you get just west of Martha's Vineyard. So all of these bear close watching. All right, here we go. So reports on wind start coming in now. 39 mile per hour gust at Woods Hole at the Yacht Club. 39 mile per hour gust. That's no huge deal. That's an awfully gusty downpour that comes in. But let's analyze that for a second, right? 39 miles an hour at Woods Hole. If you don't mind, I'd like to stay in this storm relative velocity mode that I have, and let's see what the radar says it should have been. 22, 22, 19, 31, 29. So you get where I'm going with this, right? Radar estimated wind should have been on the order of 20 to 30 miles per hour. Actual was 39. So that's my concern when you get down into some of these areas where your radar estimates are higher, where your radar estimate is 39 or 40, 43. You probably have reality on gusts to 50 inside of there. Look at this one. This is going to be close. It looks like it's going north of West Chop, though. It looks like it may stay right over the water. Farther to the south still, again, west side of Martha's Vineyard, watching carefully that entire shear axis, where, again, our radar estimates on this now are somewhere on the order of about 40 to 45 miles per hour. So we go ahead and we figure that is 46. And you figure that in with the correction for what we're seeing on actual observed wind gusts, and I'm sure we're gusting over 50. So Christiantown will be one of the areas on the west side of Martha's Vineyard. I would be tucked indoors away from windows as the storm comes by. I would treat this as a severe thunderstorm potential. I still think that there is waterspout potential when you get just northwest of Lambert's Cove Road. Special marine warning now just issued from the National Weather Service. There's your update in real time. Special marine warning from the National Weather Service has been issued for Vineyard Sound. Makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Absolutely. Let's see if we can get a little bit more on that. That's going to be out until 7:45. So you got your special marine warning now. Hopefully, those of you, if you are still boating this time of the year and this late in the season, now the marine warning has just come out. I hope you've been with us all this time, though, and you had a significant heads up. I think we've got you about a 25 or 30-minute heads up before that warning came out. And that's the idea of what we do. If we can keep you a step ahead, that would be a good thing. So along those lines, the next step, yeah, there's that marine warning extending up into the southern end of Cape Cod Bay as well. The next step on this one is going to be, and you know what, that is let me just see here. Do we have I'm reading a little bit more on the special marine warning. Storm motion northeast 39 miles an hour, pretty close to what we had at our 35 to 40. Putting, of course, all the coastal locations into that. I was actually looking to see whether or not they tagged it for a waterspout potential in that special marine warning. The National Weather Service has not, but as you and I saw together, radar has indicated the potential of waterspout development when it was over the water, so I'm going to continue to watch it carefully. There is the potential for at least an isolated spot of damaging wind between Sandwich and Mashpee. Now, we're seeing a northward extension of these heavy downpours. We do have thunder and lightning. Cloud-to-ground lightning is just outside of Forestdale. You can see it there on Turpentine Road. And so that's one area near the Army National Guard that we've seen cloud-to-ground lightning near Camp Edwards. The other one's over Nathan Ellis Highway, right? So this is when you get over Hatchville. You've got cloud-to-ground lightning that's confirmed by the National Lightning Detection Network here as well. So it looks like you've got a bit of a split at Falmouth as you've started to see T-Ticket northward kind of begin to take it on the chin from these downpours, which have dropped 2 inches of rain in a very short period of time. But you also have that other area coming in on the north side of Martha's Vineyard we're going to watch carefully as well. Let's get back over. I'm going to check your chat here in just a minute. Remember that we have chats going not only on social media, but also on YouTube, on Twitch. You can watch our live stream at 1degreeoutside.live, and there's a chat there. I monitor all of them, and you'll hear me. I'll tell you every now and again when I'm going to go back and check on the chat so I can see exactly what's happening. But right now, I just want to take a look again at the storm relative velocity because, wow, this is still one heck of an area that's sitting just northwest of Lambert's Cove Road and just off the coast of Martha's Vineyard. This is this area that I'm watching here has been showing considerable tight kind of a wind direction shift, which would essentially be a rotation spin that's showing up in the center of this thing. So being very cautious with that. We'll get back over. And one thing I was mentioning earlier is even if you go, at one point we had gone to the debris signature, you're not going to see much because it's meant to pick up on quite literally debris. So if water is lofted into the air, you're usually not going to be able to see that show up very easily on a debris signature. So it's not something that you would take as quite literal in this case. Excuse me. Guess how much rain Falmouth has picked up already. Just came in. Skywarn Spotter Network reporting 2.03 inches of rain that came just out of this short period of time that we've been dealing with these downpours. And now, arguably, some of the heaviest of the rainfall is coming in. This should be just about to hit Falmouth, so I'm going to be curious to see. Yeah, Falmouth, remember I told you they were gusting 15 knots? Now they're gusting 25 knots, so here we go. We're picking up anyway out of that. You're gusting 30, and that was before that area of downpours got on top of you. So again, to think that there's some at least isolated damaging wind in here really, to me, does not seem like a far cry or a long shot. Let's see what you say in the chat here. All right, we've got heavy rain on the North Shore at the moment. Thank you very much, Storm Chasing MA. What about Haverhill? Sue, bottom line on Haverhill is you're not going to get into this kind of severe setup. If we zoom out a little bit more, you can see Boston area all the way up through the Merrimack Valley, Worcester, southern and central New Hampshire, not into the same kind of warm air aloft that we're into in southeastern Massachusetts. Now, I will say there's going to be another area of downpours that comes in tonight. After 3 a.m. and into the morning commute. Doubtful that we would see the same type of energized system with it, but possible we would see a rumble of thunder, and certain that we will find some downpours for tomorrow morning's commute. So plan on extra time, plan on it being annoying tomorrow morning, really all over the place. I think just about everybody's into that. Really, almost everybody in New England is probably going to be into that overall. If you are just joining us, special marine warning has been issued, but we were on prior to that because of the fact that this area, this broken line of thunderstorms, there is thunder and lightning inside of it now, is capable of producing some spots of isolated damaging wind as it now moves into Mashpee and on the north side comes into Sandwich. So this will be coming right down Route 28. This will be coming down Route 6 as well. There's a bit of thunder and lightning with it that's been near the National Guard base. You also run into another area of heavy downpours and some strong gusty wind that's been sitting just west of Martha's Vineyard, waiting to see whether that holds together as it comes up on West Chop. I think it probably will. McConaughey's going to be another area that you're right in the path of this thing, so we're going to watch that as it skirts along the coastline for you. We just gusted at the center of Martha's Vineyard, so you're not even in the middle of this. We just gusted to 37 knots, so that's going to be somewhere on the order of about 44 miles an hour, doing the math roughly in my head. It's going to be somewhere around 44. So keep in mind now, we've got a 44-mile-an-hour gust or so right at the center of Martha's Vineyard. That's not even inside the center of these downpours. So I think that's worth noting. We'll share that with Skywarn as well. The 37-knot peak wind, Martha's Vineyard, out ahead of the downpours. So that's going to be an interesting one to see whether we get any reports on the northwest side of the island when this kind of gets in on top of Martha's Vineyard. So we'll be watching that pretty carefully for you. If you're watching this from the rest of the Cape, yeah, you know what? You've got downpours now. But I think that what we need to watch most is going to be that next round, which looks at this point, if it continues to go northeast, let's zoom out a little more. I want to get you another Townsend Times lineup, all right? Take it, we'll bring it off to the northeast, because it really is kind of deviated almost due northeast at about 40, all right? So based on that, you've got Townsend Times on your screen. Sandwich, of course, we know is into it right now. Mashpee at 6:48, which would be about 2 minutes from now. Oak Bluff's about 6:57. Hyannis at 7:05. Yarmouth at 7:09. Dennis at 7:11. South Yarmouth at 7:14. Brewster at 7:20. Harwich 7:24. Eastham 7:27 along with Orleans. And then Chatham at about 7:37 on its current trajectory. Again, not everybody along that line is going to see damaging wind. I think it's going to be quite isolated, but you are all going to see some pretty good downpours as this comes in on top of you. So that's what we're looking at on Townsend Times arrival. Let me go ahead and refresh on some of the chats with you again. Paul, Monument Beach. So basically at this point, I think for Monument Beach, sorry that if I'm a little late to your, you were like 7 minutes ago. Sorry for the slight delay getting to you there as I kind of keep an eye on multiple chats. I'd love to bring them all in one, but I'd bring them all into two, which is better than nothing. Monument Beach, yeah, I think you're going to be in one of these spots that you certainly have the downpours. You get a chance of lightning that comes over you here. And in terms of whether or not you get any damaging wind with it, it's going to be extremely, I think, probably isolated. It's going to be isolated to these pockets. So if I were to look right now and say, where are the pockets of damaging wind? Greatest likelihood, probably coming up on Forestdale, just coming out of Camp Edwards, just coming out of Hatchville. Mashpee is going to be one of those spots right at the center of some of those heaviest downpours, and then still watching around West Chop. So the thought process here is that very likely it ends up being kind of isolated on the wind damage part of that. And it's going to be a little bit more widespread on the torrential, blinding rain that's going to come through. Big boomers going on in Chatham, says John. Thank you, John. Appreciate the heads up on that. Again, sorry for the delay on seeing your message here in chat, but appreciate everybody. Heavy rain in Buzzards Bay with thunder and lightning. Thank you very much for the update there as well. Let's see. Measly 0.07 on the North Shore. All right, Matt. Rain and Hanson. Thank you, Kimberly. Appreciate that. Yeah, and Eric and Greg. Eric, hopefully you can hear me now. Greg, I did have a problem with my audio in the beginning. So folks who are watching the stream on replay and haven't actually clicked live to come up to speed are not seeing that. So actually, if anybody wants to share that in chat, that if you're still seeing me silent, just go ahead and click live and come up to speed. Then that'll take care of that for some of those folks. Okay, great. So I think we're caught up on chat. Let's see where we stand now with regard to some of the latest observations and see if there's anything new that's coming out. Falmouth looks like still 25 knots at this point at the airport. But again, I would expect in between there, we probably went higher. We know Woods Hole went to 39 miles an hour out of the gusts that went through there. Again, I kind of monitor several different spots at the same time so I can hear from folks, no matter where you chime in. So that's a bit of what I'm doing right now is just making sure that I've got the latest from everybody, and I appreciate everybody who chimes in. Some of you have opted to send in your reports via the Send to Us tab of our app. We appreciate that as well. All right, let's go back to the radar. You're already on it, but let me go back to the radar. And let's get over to the, we haven't done a velocity scan in a little bit. Yeah, so these are the multiple clusters of changing and shifting wind. Essentially, we have multiple areas. Let me go back to the regular. Yeah, so look, you can see if I put on shear. So what I'm doing here is I'm telling the radar, just show me where the shear has been most significant. Note the legend at the top. Strong is red. So you see why I came up on the live stream, right? If strong shear's in red, we've had a lot of that's been coming in and moving off to the east, and that continues to be the concern. So my concern continues to be whether or not we see wind damage done. And I'm not even going so far as to say it would necessarily be tornadic development. That's never impossible. And I think we did have a waterspout earlier west of Martha's Vineyard. We looked at that together. But nonetheless, when you get to Pompanesett Island and New Seabury, this is one area that screams out to me and says, okay, you certainly have a wind directional change that's going on here. This would be an area that, yes, rotation would be a concern. Same thing just off Davisville, which is headed up toward Moshop Village. But really, in practical terms, what it means is there's the potential for damaging wind in these spots. So to be sheltered indoors away from windows is the best idea anywhere, let's say, from Oyster Harbors to Cotuit Highlands, all the way down to Moshop. Farther to the north, it looks like we're losing a little bit of that same kind of wind signature. We're still seeing some wind inside of this. There is thunder and lightning, a new lightning strike, 2 of them actually, one by Newtown. The other one, look at this. Right on Route 6 at Service Road here, Mill Road, we've had actually, let's get more specific than that. There you go, Chandler Road and Tarragon Drive. So if you heard some big booms around Route 6, just near East Sandwich, that's exactly where that one was located. But this is going to be the area that I'm going to watch closest, because this is the area coming now near Pompanesett Island toward Cotuit, where we are definitely seeing the winds going in opposite directions. Again, at this point, I wouldn't be jumping up and down screaming, tornado potential, but I think what I would be saying is damaging wind potential, at least isolated in some of these spots. This is the time now at West Chop. We were waiting on this, and it's just starting to scrape along the coastline for you. Let's see if we can go over to your velocity plot. Yeah, so you've had that wind shift, that shear axis come through. Vineyard Haven's about to get it. So gusts right now at Vineyard Haven should be picking up on the order of 45 to 50 miles an hour based upon the earlier report off of Martha's Vineyard of 44 miles an hour. This should be your biggest wind time over the next 10 minutes at Vineyard Haven. East Chop, Eastville, you're going to be up next. Give it about 10 minutes for you, and it's in on top of you. You should be now through the worst of it on the west end of Martha's Vineyard in terms of the wind. Also, the downpour is really kind of organized to the north as well. Harwich to Chatham, you've got downpours coming in on top of you. It's not that same forced line with thunder and lightning that's coming in on the west side of Cape Cod Bay. That'll get to you eventually. But I think the moral of the story here is you've got the torrential downpours with the blinding rain potential. We picked up on the order of over 2 inches of rain in a very short period of time out of these as they've come through. So just plan on it being really tough going on the roads. If you don't have to be out there on Route 6 and 28 right now in the Cape, give it an hour. It's going to be in a lot better place in an hour than it is right now. West Dennis, Sam says, porch has a metal roof and it's crazy loud. Yeah, I do love the sound of rain on a metal roof, isn't it? There's something beautiful about that. There really is. Let's see, just checking out the latest observations now. What do we got at Chatham? Chatham has gusted to 32 knots, so you're talking about probably 38 miles an hour, somewhere thereabouts on the gust out of Chatham. Now, of course, as you can see, that's way ahead of the line. And that's part of my concern, right? If we gusted 44 at Martha's Vineyard when we weren't even in the line, and at the center of those lines, you got to figure there's some folks who are gusting up higher than that. Let's see how we're doing on outages. Yep, power outages coming in now from portions of the Cape and the Islands. Let me see if I can get you switched over to that without breaking things. That's always a question. Is Matt going to break something? Let's see if I get that. Here we go. Power outage. All right, here we go. Bring it up. Good. Transition it. Nice. Okay, so here's your power outages now. You can see when you get onto the Cape, there's Barnstable. It's only 7 customers at Barnstable right now. In Barnstable County, I should say. It's in Sandwich. But you've got Marion with 1 customer. Oh, come on, right? Well, the issue here is that it's going out for some reason, right? You got 54 customers without power at Tisbury. So what you need is basically for a tree or a limb to fall in the wrong spot, and then all of a sudden you get more than that. So not a big deal on outages right now, but nonetheless, something that we'll continue to keep an eye on to see exactly how this will shape up for you. Let's go back over to the observations, which this is what I'm watching, by the way. Great site if you ever want to watch it for yourself, aviationweather.gov. It's set up for pilots, but if you love weather, it's a phenomenally useful and timely site, because if you think about it, pilots need to have weather updated very regularly, right? So any site that's set up for pilots tends to be one of the good ones, and it's one of the ones that's still up, even while we've had the government shutdown going on, which has been also a big bonus to have it still up. All right, let me see if I can go ahead and bring us in on the radar again. There we go. And we'll go ahead, hitting Storm Chasing MA says, hitting TK's house. Yeah, Tim Kelly, right? That's it. My my longtime friend and colleague for many, many years. And yeah, Tim's got a place down in the Cape that he loves to send out his social media posts from. I wonder if we'll hear anything from him coming up through this event right here. We'll have to find out. All right, let's see. One thing that I'm not sure that we ever did is I don't know that in the hustle and bustle that we had things going on, did we end up getting, I think we did get a live stream notification out on our app, right? Yes, we did. Good. That would be all Danielle. Thank you, Danielle. Here we go. You ready? All right, this is it. Marston's Mills, 55 mile per hour wind gust. Marston's Mills has recorded a 55 mile an hour gust. So, you know, it's one of those things that you know it's got to be happening, right? You come up and you let folks know that you need to be ready for damaging wind, and now you've got the 55 mile per hour reported gust. And I think that's probably only the first of what we'll end up hearing will be more. Let's go ahead and go back over to the storm relative velocity winds. Yeah. So look, if this was the middle of summer, folks would be paying a lot of attention to this. I'm still paying a lot of attention to it. This is an area of rotating wind that just came over Pompanesett. And as I explained before, right at Shore Drive now, where it's coming through at Moshop Village, look, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to drop a tornado on the ground. There is rotation in the cloud. There's no question. I mean, I'm looking right at it, and so are you. But admittedly, you've got a cool air mass in place. It does sometimes become harder to get something like that to make it to the ground when you've got cool air in place versus when it's like 85 degrees and you can mix everything very easily down to the ground. But the concern and the problem that we're now getting Skywarn spotter reports of with that 55 mile an hour gust is that you still can get damaging wind down to the ground. You got to be careful that you don't get any rotation down to the ground too. And I am not comfortable when I look at this area over Pompanesett, which is going back out over the water. So we'll watch out for a possible water spout south of Cotuit, but we're also going to pay very close attention along the south coast of the Cape to make sure it doesn't try and back in on you. But the other area is on the back side of this thing, you're blasting the winds through New Seabury and Moshop. And so these are one of these areas that you're going to be able to perhaps get another one of these gusts of 55 that'll happen. Bigger picture, go down to the south. I told you the windiest time had already been going through Vineyard Haven when we were talking about it, and Oak Bluffs was going to be up next. Oak Bluffs and East Chop, this is your windiest time. All right, this is your blast that's coming through right now. Once this goes by, you're pretty much all done with any potential for any damaging wind or anything like that. To see the power outage number come out of Tisbury, it was small, but it's not surprising, right? Because you were underneath the southern flank of some of this as it was driving through. Looks like a new cloud-to-ground lightning strike has just come out. Let's take a closer look here at our street-level tracking. This is going to be just off of South County Road near Prince Avenue. So that's Route 28. You can see just off of Route 28 at Prince Avenue is where you just had one of the cloud-to-ground strikes coming in. Pine Tree Corner, you're sending it out toward Oyster Harbors. Oyster Harbors, give it about 5-6 minutes. It's on top of you. Hyannis, let's do a town and times for you again. We haven't done that for a little while. We might as well get the update on what we're doing. I also want to zoom this out a little bit more so that we can also have the Outer Cape included when you get up around Truro and Wellfleet. So I'm not overly concerned, excuse me, about Truro seeing damage. Wellfleet, maybe you'd be on the north side. I'm more concerned where we've got warmer air aloft that's kind of helping to facilitate these gusts. But either way, on the current speed, they've picked up a little bit of speed here. Let me get the legend out of the way. There you go. Hyannis and Yarmouth within the next 10 minutes. It's on top of you. Dennis at about 7:10. South Yarmouth at about 7:16. Truro at 7:17. Wellfleet 7:17. Brewster 7:19. Eastham, Harwich, Orleans, all around 7:25. And Chatham at about 7:35. Now, I know it's raining on top of you already, Chatham, right? So it's I'm aware of that. All right, Falmouth just went to a northeast wind. So the reason that's important, it's a northeast wind at 21 knots. The reason that's important is because it confirms for us that we have a center of circulation that's developed right around that heavy downpour. So that kind of drives home the idea that you've got the potential for some damaging wind either side of that, but particularly when you get on the south side of that. And there it is. There's the new scan that just came in. So the area that we're going to be watching really carefully is basically going to be between Moshop and Hyannis right along the coast, and then go up to 28 for that matter as well. Even at Route 6, it's not impossible that we end up getting an isolated damaging wind gust that shows up for you as well. I'll check the chat with you here in just a second. Sorry if I'm jerking this around a little bit. There we go. And I'll see what you have. Forestdale, Mass, Skywarn Spotter Network checking in 2.09 inches of rain. That observation coming in right now. You're getting it literally up to the second. So when you hear it here, you know it's literally just come in. Storm chasing MA. I guess I should have chased down the Cape this evening. Yeah, you never know, do you? But nonetheless, yeah, this was certainly a good little thunderstorm embed that's going on for the Cape and the islands. East Dennis pouring rain. Thank you. Came across your network today, says Highland Weather TV. So happy to hear it. Please spread the good word. We really appreciate that. Also, not sure where you folks are watching right now, but if you're watching on your computer, just so you know, there's two other options. One is if you're not on the computer, 1degreeoutside.live is the computer live stream, as opposed to our normal site, 1degreeoutside.com. You can watch it on our app. It's right at the top of our home screen on the app. It's linked right there, and you can watch it right there on your phone or your tablet, but also on your smart TV. So if you want to see this in a big screen, sometimes with the towns and times, it's easier to do that. What you want to do is go into the YouTube app on your smart TV and do a search for 1 Degree Outside Network, 1 Degree Outside Network, and you'll be able to see it there. So that's my suggestion if you want to find us on the big screen. All right, meanwhile, let's go ahead and get back to the analysis and show you what's going on. I want to take off what we did with the towns and times so we can give you a better feel for what's happening on the Cape. Again, if you are tuning in farther to the north right now, if you're in Scituate, if you're in Duxbury, if you're in Plymouth, these are not heading for you. That's the good news. These are continuing to track off to the north and east. So all you need to be concerned with at this point is going to be some showers and pockets of rain, but really most of that now has lifted for those of you who are watching across the Merrimack Valley and across the North Shore and across southern New Hampshire. These are the areas that are seeing the steadiest of the rain and some downpours mixed in. But again, there's no damaging wind potential like what we're seeing down in the Cape. I will say that if you're watching from some of these other areas, be ready for what's going to be a messy morning commute. There is rain that's going to be coming in, and it won't necessarily be something that's big on a severe standpoint, but it may be something that causes a number of accidents and things like that, particularly on a lot of our highways and interstates in the morning, because the rain will be coming down, okay? Meanwhile, let's get zoomed back in, because this is the time that we're watching Hyannis, waiting on a new scan to come in. It looks like, as best I can tell, we don't necessarily have the radar that's up into 1 minute mode at this point, so not in severe weather mode, which means that you're not going to necessarily get the 60-second scans. But at this point, you have to figure that leading edge that was over Cotuit Highlands now is likely coming up between Oyster Harbors and Craigville. Okay, so Hyannis, I still think we're on target for an arrival about 6 minutes from now for you. I do want to get back over to the storm relative wind. Again, what this is wind inside the storm where we correct for storm motion. One thing that's really good, couple things. First of all, when I told you there was the potential of a 55-mile-per-hour gust, and then we saw the 55-mile-per-hour gust be actually reported, that was when we had storm relative winds that were on the order of about 45 miles per hour. Watch this. I can already tell by looking. If I probe the center of that, you're down to 28 now on this. That's a good sign. If I zoom the view out more, I told you that the worst of the wind was over at Oak Bluffs. I'm not worried about damaging wind for you anymore. So the one area that I do think we have to be a little bit cognizant of is farther to the north, because we are getting, remember I was telling you you're going to get that gust of wind that comes right ahead of the downpours themselves. So that's what we're seeing that just lifted over Craigville right now. Look at that, 47 mile per hour radar estimated wind. So that's my concern, is right ahead of the downpours. If I go back over to the regular radar imagery, there you go. It's just on the leading edge. That's where you're going to see the gusts. So what that means is Hyannis, it's really now through the next 5 minutes that you have the greatest wind gusts that come on, because you're sitting just ahead of that line that's moving off to the east. Brand new lightning strike. It looks like, I think that's a new one from the last time we checked, right? This is sitting just, no, that's the one off Prince Avenue. We did that one already together. Your heavy downpours now coming over 28. This is not really a time to get out there and travel on Route 6 and 28. If you've been visiting family or friends at Yarmouth and Dennis or Brewster or anywhere on the Outer Cape, and you got to make the trek back, I wouldn't do it right now, because you got to punch right through the center of that. And just to put it in perspective, we've been getting reports of over 2 inches of rain. It's been coming down. Barnstable is now checked in with 2.39 inches of rain that's come out of this event so far. And it's only been ongoing for, like, I guess an hour and a half all told when you put it together with the original rain that came in. But You get the idea. If you can wait for that to snap through, it's going to be a lot safer and a lot better for you. Now, if you're at Sandwich, if you're at Bourne, the worst of it's by you. It's headed out over the bay. It's headed down down to the mid and outer Cape. You're good to go. The farther to the north that you go, you might have to check the traffic just to see how things are looking in terms of if there were any crashes with the rain earlier, because it did rain hard earlier. But you're pretty much good to go the farther north that you go. I can go over to the shear plot, and again, this is what I showed you earlier. This is just shear over the last hour. This is where there's been some rotational component to the wind, which, as I've been telling you, doesn't necessarily mean that you're dealing with a tornado on a day like today with cool air in place. It can mean, moreover, that you're dealing with the potential for damaging wind. And notice that big path over the last hour, that red, if you line that up to the legend at the top, that's strong shear. So this is something that, yeah, we're at a warm air mass. We would have been concerned about things reaching the ground all over the place. But instead, it's become this isolated damaging wind pulse event that's been ongoing. All right. Let's go back over to the plane radar for you. There's the current location. Worst of the wind just now coming into Yarmouth and Dennis. Again, it looks like mostly it's along the leading edge and in front of the leading edge to the downpours, where we've been getting the most significant wind that's been coming in. Let me check the latest power outage reports from MEMA. Let's see where we're at with that. Yeah, we're still steady, pretty low. We're talking about 379 power outages. So, I mean, look, it's child's play by New England standards. 54 of those are in Tisbury, which is not really surprising, right? That was an area that we watched on the southern flank of that thing as it came through. Let me go ahead, and I'm also just going to take a look at some of the remainder of the social media reports that I have coming in. Then I'm going to go back to your chat if you want to chime in on the chat. Heavy rain in West Yarmouth. Yup, getting the report that's coming in. It looks like 0.81 inches of rain in West Yarmouth so far, and that was before the line comes in. So you should push over 1.6, 1.7 total by the time that line comes in if it goes the way that it's been looking. I just saw there's an alert on an unprecedented tornado that tore through southern Brazil. That's interesting, but not something we'll talk about right now. Let me get to the chat and see what's going on. Raining right now in Deerfield, New Hampshire. Riley, hello from Deerfield along the Lamprey River. Hope things are going well for you up there. And appreciate you checking in. Thank you. I love Deerfield. Fell in love with Deerfield during the Deerfield Fair. And continue now to love to go trout fishing up along your rivers and streams. Fred says I mirror my iPhone to my smart TV. Excellent, Fred. I'm glad it works out easy that way. That's fantastic. Good. I'm glad that works out. Let me check some of the other chats that we have and see where folks are at on this. Appreciate everybody who's been chiming in. Good. It looks like we're pretty caught up on the chat, which is fantastic. I don't expect that we've got, excuse me, a very large audience right now. And that's good because not many folks, this is not really affecting a lot of folks. But if you are watching from the Cape, I do want to make sure that we've taken good care of you until I really don't think there's any wind damage threat any longer. And at this point, I wouldn't quite say that yet. One thing that I look at here, this is really fascinating. Remember I told you that Falmouth, the wind shifted direction, which indicated an area, a center of low pressure? You want to see it? There it is. Ready? Right here. That is your center of low pressure. All right, so what you're talking about here is you're talking about winds that have been coming around on the backside and wrapping under this thing, and then out ahead of it, bam, that's your southerly acceleration. That's why I've been saying that right now, Dennis and Yarmouth and Hyannis, these have been the times of worst wind for you because your wind is accelerating out of the south. Now, I have to be careful. I don't want to mislead you. I say out of the south, but the problem is that's a loft, okay? So at the surface, it's more of an easterly or east-southeast wind that's coming in. Chatham right now is southeast, but you're east-southeast at Yarmouth. So you get, that's why I say it really becomes this kind of isolated wind damage type thing because you've got these 55-mile-per-hour winds that are ripping out of the south out ahead of that little area of low pressure just a couple thousand feet off the deck. But you're not mixing that to the ground in all spots. So you've got to be just ahead of some of these really bad downpours or just under them in order to get that kind of a translation down to the surface. Yeah, oh, look, classic. Oh, wow, classic example. Okay, so this is interesting. Hyannis. Interesting. Hyannis has just gone to a variable wind. So that's remarkable. Hyannis was gusty for a while. and now has gone to a variable wind. Nantucket is gusting to 32 knots, so about 36-ish miles an hour. Brand new special marine warning now out from the National Weather Service. This will include the Outer Cape and adjacent waters all the way up to P-Town, out to Stellwagen, and then goes back down into the northern end of Nantucket Sound. Again, this is the newest from the National Weather Service. This went out until 8:15. The previous special marine warning in effect until 7:45. That is one of the things you can do with our weather network is you can watch it on the boat, and that certainly is the case, and more of you do that. There's not many folks still with the boat in the water, except for those who make a living out of it, and we enjoy supporting you and being here for you. But nonetheless, keep in mind, you can take us with you anywhere that you get cell phone reception of any sort. You're able to watch us there. So we're aware some of you may be watching us now. One thing that I'm watching is this new area that's trying to fire up again over Cape Cod Bay. You get some, at least a couple of cloud to water strikes that are out over the bay here. Can we do let's do a probe on the velocity inside the center of that. Yeah, so that's your actual velocity. If we do storm relative velocity, interesting. Let me probe that for you. And the reason I say interesting is because at the center of this, you got 63 miles an hour. If you come down over Yarmouth right now, remember what we were talking about, that southern acceleration, right? 55 miles per hour just off the deck at Yarmouth. So it's excuse me, it's nice to have the technology because it's something where I can tell you that should be blowing 55 miles an hour, 2,000 feet off the deck. But it's much better to use the radar and show you it really is blowing 55 miles an hour, 2,000 feet off the deck. Let me wipe that off so we can get a better view and zoom in. Yeah, okay, so we're seeing a strengthening now of the downpours at Hyannis. So if you're in Hyannis, look, this thing's coming right in on top of you. It does have a history of producing 55 mile per hour observed wind gusts. They have not been widespread, but they've been ongoing. So I would say if you can be tucked indoors away from windows as this thing comes through, that would be a really great idea. Just because we don't know what's going to come down for limbs and branches and things of that nature right in Hyannis right now. And that's going to continue right down Route 28. Bass River, you'd be up next. I'll be curious to see how much of that holds together on the southern side. But we do have a southern flank south of Craigville that's trying to hold together for you now as well. So it's a good idea to certainly remain on guard in this area. And then again, there's that curl, that center of low pressure that we looked at together. You can really see it showing up here. So that's enhancing some of the rainfall, but it also may be enhancing the potential of some isolated damaging wind under the southern side of the circulation. The circulation center itself is probably going to continue northeast and come right out. Actually, nature gives you these kind of interesting clues. If you zoom out a little bit more, this is essentially, that's your low pressure. This is a miniature warm front trying to develop out ahead of it with that blast of southerly wind. All right, so it's trying to, nature telegraphs where it's going to go next. It's very likely going to swirl right up along that area, which means it'll end up near Wellfleet. And it's going to drag that trailing miniature cold front, so to speak. There's not really cold air behind it, but this is the way you can think about it. It's going to drag that along the mid-Cape and drag it down 28. And that's why I say I still think there's the potential for some spots of isolated wind damage as this all comes through. At the very least, you're certainly getting a good weather lesson here on how the atmosphere works. And again, the reason that this is all happening in your area is because we're talking about what right now for you is the warmer air aloft that just hasn't moved in for the rest of New England. By the way, if you happen to be watching our 24/7 network and you were hoping to get an update somewhere else in New England, I should make it clear that we are still looking at a mix of precipitation in pink that's coming down across Coos County at Pittsburgh, New Hampshire. We had snow all day, and we're looking at that mix out toward Millinocket as well. Route 201, Carabasset Valley, things are still a bit icy from earlier. The temperature is on the rise. When you get down to Dexter, it's less of a problem. Skowhegan, it's less of a problem. But when you get up into the northwest corner of Maine, I mean, Waterville, Maine, for example, is still 34 degrees. It is still 32 in Carabasset Valley. That's why I say it's still icy. In Berlin, New Hampshire, we've warmed up to 35, but again, we continue to see an icy mix up at Pittsburgh. So I know a lot of you do make the drives back from northern New England on a Sunday evening. So just know that the farther south you come, the better the weather is going to be. The Maine Turnpike is fine. It is raindrops, and it is above freezing safely all the way down. You've got a little ice pellet mix that's been reported at Lewiston right now. but the temperature there is at 36 degrees. So I'm not concerned about icing that's happening there. The upper valley, by the way, if I swing things over to the west just a bit, is down to just rain showers and plenty mild enough. Lebanon, New Hampshire, White River Junction is running about 44. We are in the 30s all the way up through Burlington, Vermont. It's 37 with light rain right now. Up at Newport, Vermont, it's 33 degrees. There's still a little ice on the road at Newport and Derby. So if you're up near the Canadian border, that's something to keep in mind. And then again, kind of making our way back down to the south, this is all plain rain, temperatures that are running in the 40s for just about everybody. There's dense fog in the Worcester Hills, so at Worcester right now, it's quarter-mile visibility above about 800 feet in elevation, which would be the airport, and it'll be along some of the hilltops of Worcester County. Paxton has some fog that's filling in. You'll find that fog thickening in the hills of Leominster and Fitchburg over the course of about the next probably 45 minutes to hour and a half. And then actually the fog lets up. Because remember, it's this overall warm front that's riding in, so it's a push of warmer air, but the air's not quite as saturated. There's a bit of fog at the south coast of Connecticut, and that's about it. I am expecting more to come in tomorrow. I can probably take a moment here, especially since we don't have, it looks like we're not in an imminent severe issue. Let me take a moment to show you, and it might get a little squirrely for just a second as I bring this up. But I would like to show you what we're looking at in terms of the forecast radar, all right? Let me make sure you're actually seeing it. Yep, you are. Good. And we'll go ahead and we'll play things through. And you can see that over the course of the next several hours, the first round of rain lifts off to the north, and then the next round of rain is coming at us. That's 1:15 in the morning, and you can see where it is down to the south. So that's why I say by the time you get between 3 a.m. onward, you're going to find that filling in for a lot of New England. That north side will end up in northern New England. The south side with embedded downpours, maybe a rumble of thunder will be in southern New England for the morning commute. That's going to be part of the problem. And then that whole area that lags off to the south all the way down to North Carolina, that's going to have to come through us tomorrow morning through midday, and it'll let up a bit more as we get to the afternoon. But just be in the mindset that things will be a bit slower as a result of that. Let's get back over to the radar for you. And again, we'll zoom right in onto Cape Cod, and we'll show you what's happening here. This is the area at Hyannis that we've been watching for the potential of isolated damaging wind. Let me get over to the storm relative velocity again. Yep, so you're still seeing these areas where you get these little swirls, and I do mean that quite literally. You're getting a little bit of, kind of spin that'll happen, but this at this point is not concerning in any way, shape, or form for tornadic development. Earlier, I had folks aware that we had a water spout, I believe, west of Martha's Vineyard. Not seeing anything like that at the current time. At this point, what we're talking about is the downpours that are putting a lot of water on the road. Multiple reports now, several reports of over 2 inches of rain. A report of a gust of 55 miles per hour at Marston's Mills. So we know that there still may be some isolated damaging gusts that are in here. I think at this point, what I'd probably do is I'm thinking particularly for our folks who are watching on our 24/7 network. I think I'd do more of a service to get back over to our videos for that, including the evening video that I had put out moments before we came up. For this, let's see, before I leave, hold on, we're just getting a new storm track here. Okay, so, all right, maybe let's stick with this. I was just about to let you go, but let's stay with this now. So this is a cell that our in-house algorithm here at 1 degree outside, which is part of the Barron algorithm on radar, is showing a chance that we've got at least a severe cell development here, arriving to Dennis at 7:20, Brewster at 7:28, Orleans at 7:34, Eastham at 7:37, and Wellfleet at 7:40. Why don't we go ahead and take a look inside that? I see. Yep, so, I do get it. What it's doing here, I'll go regular velocity. Yep, what it's doing here is it's picking up on the shear. It's picking up on the directional shift in wind that's happening here and saying, I think there might be severe storm development. I have to say that based upon what we're looking at here, I don't think that that's going to end up being, a spot of significant damage that would be done. I'm not more concerned about that than I was about anything else. I think I'd be more concerned about what's developing here. So let's go back over to the radar here. Yeah, that's out ahead of the main line, but this is another thing that I was talking about, another area where, okay, good. So there's the latest scan and that weakens, but this is another area where you'll watch it. You'll say, all right, could there be an isolated damaging burst of wind coming into Bass River in the next 3 minutes? There could be, again, same advice that I've been giving. I would say be indoors, away from windows. as this comes through. It's going to bring down some limbs here and there. It's going to be a lot like what we had with that event last week, where we ended up finding out that trees had been down the next day. In some cases, it was like the middle of the day before we even heard about some of the damage that had been done. I'm willing to bet there's going to be a little bit more of that goes on. Kelly reporting lightning in Hyannis. Thank you, Kelly. Appreciate your report there. Checking for some of the other chats just to see if there's anything else that we want to be aware of coming in. Appreciate everybody who touches base. I think things are fairly quiet on the home front. And I don't see a lot. There's been a few more outages right now that have happened in Sandwich, but it's a handful. Falmouth now has 19 without power, right? We know that's no big deal, but the number has climbed. We're at 400 now in the state, which is not a big deal, but nonetheless, evidence that you've had at least these little spots of wind damage have been going on. Looking at some of the latest reports to see if there's anything new that I want to share with you. I think we're good. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch this back over now to our regular stream. If you're watching this on a social media feed, it's easy to find the 24/7 network on your computer. You want to go to onedegreeoutside.live, and that'll take you directly to where you can watch on the computer. On the app, it's linked at the top of the homepage. And then finally, on your smart TV, open up the YouTube app and do a search for 1 Degree Outside Network. All right. And that will take you to our streaming network. So I will come, if there's something to come back up for, I will certainly come back up. I think I've got things figured out, so you'll actually hear me right out of the gate, which would be remarkable since we had the audio problems in the beginning. But just something to keep in mind. So again, to recap, Outer Cape, if you need to leave the Outer Cape and travel back up off Cape, don't go now. If you need to go Outer Cape to Upper Cape, don't go now. Let this snap through in the next 45 minutes, then go. You'll be in a much better place. You're getting 2 inches of rain in a short period of time coming down inside some of these, all right? So with that, I think I'm pretty good to switch over back to the regularly scheduled programming on the 1 Degree Outside 24/7 network. I'll see you there if anything pops up again. Have a great rest of your evening. And